Hey everybody, my name is January Rogers and I'm Mohawk Tuscarora, coming to you from Six Nations of the Grand River, which is my home territory. And I'm just honored to have been invited to curate a very special sessions for Brickyard or Brick Yard book projects for their video series for June of 2023. And as such, we are introducing Michelle Sylliboy in this session, who I haven't seen in for a long, long time because we were both there as visitors on the West Coast. But now Michelle is in her home territory. But I'm going to let Michelle Sylliboy introduce themselves as you see fit. Tell us what it is that you'd like us to know about you as a person, as a writer, as anything that you like.
Uh, Hi, I'm Michelle Sylliboy. Tleo iwe ko ama unamai wadebek sinadil. Nuchojiga don't get got in me. Grand Chief Ben Sylliboy David Marie. Nuchoji dam bigly me las is from Clarence Patlas. Alexandria Sylliboy. I just introduced where I originated from and who brought me into this world. So I'm from Wegoma community, which is in Cape Breton Island. And my parents that raised me, the late Grand Chief Sylliboy and his wife Marie, and my parents that brought me into this world. My father was from Nadawakanik in New Brunswick. Used to be called Eel Ground. And my mother, Alexandrine, was from Wegoma in Cape Breton. So that's who. I guess the creator said I needed two sets of parents.
Lucky you. And Michelle, like I wanted everyone to know that we know each other as visitors on the West Coast there. You were living, now I just know that you
We're
were living
short a
there.
cigar, Janet.
We smoked those cigars together on my birthday, which of course very memorable on Granville, you know, no less. So but I want everyone to know that, you were there for 27 years as a guest on Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish territory. And I was there for 25 years as a guest on Coast Salish territory on the island. And now you're back home and I'm back home. But I'm curious to know what your experience has been like in terms of the territories having influence over your work, because they're very different. I mean, polar sides of Turtle Island.
Yes.
From one ocean to the other ocean.
Yeah.
So,
In Vancouver, I remember I used to organize those poetry events.
yeah.
And so I worked a lot on just writing, poetry in English and really spent time getting to know the writers community, and that was a really big thing for me because I started writing in my early 20s, and that's when I got to know Lee Miracle and Christos and all the Indigenous writers that we honor in our world, and that's something that was really special for me. And then when I came home, I started to do my PhD project, and my dissertation is about reclaiming the hieroglyphic language, which we call komqwej'wikasikl, and komqwej'wikasikl is translated into two words. Komqwej is a suckerfish, and wikasikl means writing. So when the elders were describing what they saw, they said, "Oh, it looks like what a suckerfish leaves in the sand," because our language is very descriptive. So I started to think about writing poetry in our language, and that was a interesting challenge. Of course, the book came out, as you're well aware, and
I am ready.
yeah, Kiskajeyi, and I remember thinking, like, when I submitted when I decided who was going to do the review, I really respected all of you. But I also had huge, I was terrified what Lee and Crystals were going to say. They're both strong women, but really like they've honed their craft. And I did spend time with Crystals, and I showed her my manuscript years ago, and she gently said, "Okay, Michelle, work on this, and maybe you know." She taught me how to tweak it, and Lee was very blunt in her way of how to take care of your writing, and blunt and gentle at the same time. She
Mm,
was
mm.
she didn't mince her words. So I knew that if they said don't publish, I wouldn't have published. I would have told the publisher, sorry, it's not ready.
Not necessarily change careers, but at least listen to that bit of
Yeah,
advice, eh?
yeah, you gotta honor those who have done the work for so many years, eh?
Yeah, yeah.
Crystals and Leo had been writing for most of our lives, so yeah.
But
Yeah,
now we're in that position too, Michelle. Like, if you
yeah,
realize it or not,
I know.
it's like now we've kind of come into this kind of like generational place of responsibility,
Yeah.
And so what have you done since you've been home, like in terms of, mentoring or just sharing and, influencing that territory with your work and your experience?
Yeah, I've done a lot. I mean, because of my PhD, I've been able to go into communities and collaborate, and one of the things that I wanted to happen, and it did happen, was collaborate with the younger generation and bring them together with professional artists. So emerging artists come together with professional artists, whether they were musicians or whatever. I wanted that exchange to happen so that the younger generation would sit there, whether they're jamming together or writing together, whatever, right? And it happened, and it was really interesting. Of course, I went into the communities and did a lot of, I was just going through my photographs because I'm trying to figure out what's going to end up in my dissertation, because I did a lot. I went all over Nova Scotia. I went to New Brunswick. I went to Newfoundland. I went to PEI. I went all over the place, sharing our language and planting seeds, because it's not used the way it should be used. And so just planting seeds and sparking that interest by putting in my artwork, and you can see it in the back, and the exhibitions. And even when I did my very first exhibition, I wanted this young artist to be part of my opening and part of the exhibition. So I chose Alan Sylliboy, who's our elder painter, artist, and then we chose Loretta and Gould, who had been starting out and just slowly making her way through, and give her that opportunity to exhibit with artists that have been at it for a while. So yeah, just making space. I've done
Mm.
I've done that, and so now I'm leaving the academy because it just doesn't suit me, and I'm gonna start a traveling art school, and I'm gonna have artists from across Canada, that whoever wants to come and participate and share their talent to our communities. And so we have 7 districts in our nation. So we have Newfoundland, PEI, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, uh, and Quebec and Maine. And so that's part of our territory. And I want to be able to go into those places and just introduce art, whatever the genre is, it doesn't matter. And we're going to use the 13 moon calendar as our template, and communities can decide what kind of art they want their communities to learn. And I want to have it so that an intergenerational learning takes place. So if a grandparent wants to take it with their grandchild, they can take that class together,
Oh, wow.
or aunties and nieces and uncles and nephews, because those kinds of relationships have they've kind of disappeared, I think.
Mm,
Well, people are not going to their uncles the way they should,
mhm.
or their aunties the way they should.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, well, let's use art as a way to to bring them together and also heal. We're still healing from residential schools, and we're still healing from the traumas. And art is a really good way to heal, and allow it to just come out without keeping it anymore, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah, great. And writing is not the only thing you do, Michelle. You're multidisciplinary. You're working that sculpture. You're taking those photographs, and then you made a beautiful, I have to say, video offering for Brickyard. I
yeah.
was really touched. I was really touched by watching your video with your narration of the poetry over top of it. Like, it was lovely,
Uh,
like so
thank
fluid
you.
and so lovely. So I'm wondering, my question now then is, in poetry and writing, we do use language literally. There's, a literal language that's in place there. But then also with those other disciplines, there's a language. And I'm just wondering, as an as a multidisciplinary artist, what have you found between similarities between the visual language and a literary language, or a performance language, or whatever? Have you found any similarities or differences or challenges making those languages have a relationship to each other?
Um, there's a difference. I mean, they speak together. Um, when I did the whale bones, I that was something, I felt, after I was done carving the whale bones, I felt like my dissertation was done. But the academy requires their 2,000 word page paper. And I felt like, if they only knew how many hours they spent, and by the time
Yeah.
I was done, my allergies were so bad. I, and I had an interview at this one university. I didn't get it at that time because my eyes were caking with allergies,
Oh,
and I didn't. It happened over a couple of days. I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? And I'm like, oh, I'm allergic to dust, right?
uh,
And I thought, wow. But I realized that who we are as Indigenous people, and what we consider, what our methodology of what knowledge is, and how we transfer knowledge. That's something that I've been trying to push. If storytelling is our way of doing things, that is our pedagogy, or our methodology. If carving is your methodology, carving is your methodology, and that should be something that it should have been enough.
mm.
And I think I don't know if I'm procrastinating. I'm not procrastinating, but I'm feeling like, you know, I feel like I'm done. I'm complete with this dissertation, like, and it seems like if I could just pass in those whale bones, because I spend hours and hours and hours on them. And from the moment I picked it up and to the moment I finished, I don't know how many hours. And I wrote and I carved out people's messages, and because I asked one question: if you could tell the whale anything, what would you say?
Mm.
Those messages, and with their permission, I carved them into the whalebone on both sides. And that was really a powerful experience, because I had young people, I had people from all walks of life, I had elders, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, everybody, artists, writers, musicians. It was really interesting who participated, and how each person honored the whale. And they were very careful in the way they honored. Even I was very careful. I didn't want to start carving and writing on the whale until I was ready. And it wasn't until that orca whale in Victoria, who carried her baby for 17 days, that mother really inspired what I would do. And I realized I have this talent of bringing people together. So when our writers collective would come together and we would bring the audience and out and hear us share our poetry, I thought I have to collaborate with the community and bring them together. And as soon as I did that, everything just fell into place.
Okay.
Because it wasn't because it was always about sharing. It was always about, making people aware, the awareness around our language and the fact that it wasn't invented by a priest, and taking back our historical voice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm curious to know, we have such similar experiences living on the West and then coming back home. And what year did you get back home, Michelle?
2017.
Is it 2 years before me? And
Really?
you've been now how many years? 5 years?
Well, 2017. What is it? Is it the 5th year?
Is it? Is it? Something like that?
We're getting old. What
Yeah, I know. What the heck year is it? But anyways, my question with this is, how was that coming home for you? Like as an artist and as a person of your territory who'd been away for so long,
I know. I had to start over.
In what way?
Well, in Vancouver, I knew the arts community. Whether it was visual arts, poetry, music.
Yeah. You were embedded in it, Michelle.
I was embedded in it.
Yeah, man.
And if I needed anybody to perform with me, they were no problem, Michelle.
Yeah.
Here I had to, figure out, okay, the first thing I got to do is get to know the arts community. And I had gotten to know a few, and from there, with them, I was able to expand. And of course, when the first exhibition finally happened and the book, it was like, I got great exposure and I got invitations to form or collaborate. I've done a lot of collaborations with musicians and that's something, but I work my ass off. And going into the communities and getting to know my own people all over again. Even though I knew them. Like, every summer I would come home because I worked in education, so I had summers off, and I would come home in the summertime and spend time with my elders. And I remember my sister kept wondering why I spent so much time with the elders, and I said because they only speak our language, and I'm able to maintain my fluency because I'm communicating with them in our language. And that I treasured that, and I still do. So, and it worked, right? Because I'm still fluent and I'm able to communicate with my elders and
amazing,
and allow it to happen, even in my own poetry and my work. So even and so I had to, it was like I had to start fresh. And I remember writing about that in my dissertation. It's like, I had to get to know the artist community. I had to introduce myself. I did try to get people to collaborate with me on the hieroglyphic poetry, but people were too intimidated.
Oh.
So I realized, okay, when I got home, several elders passed away. My father passed away. My mentor, who also published a book about the history of the hieroglyphics, she passed away. Another elder who was, really good friends with my mother, she passed away. People that were very influential in my life passed away. And once I overheard somebody say, well, their job here is now done.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, their job here is done. Okay. So now it's my job to carry on this language in the way I know, which is as an artist, as a poet. And I thought, okay, this is my journey, and this is the perspective I'm going to use as a photographer and yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been fun. Now I'm inspiring composers. I have another composer. I've had composers last year write new music to my poetry, and
wow.
I have another one. I said, write it for the cello and piano because Yo-Yo Ma has my book and I want him to play the music. He goes, okay,
Yes.
I'll do that. And
And yes, Yo-Yo Ma should do that.
yeah,
You know,
he has my book and he loved it. So
that's amazing. That's
yeah,
amazing. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah, for me, like coming home the first 3 years, it was nice, eh? Like it was better than I ever could have imagined. Like coming home because you're kind of vulnerable.
yeah,
Coming home is a vulnerable act. You don't know what's waiting here for you. You don't know how you're gonna be received and everything. But I made sure I packed a big bag of gifts coming back home. And I brought all those gifts here and made them available, to everybody. But really, the time when I kind of realized I'm really home is this past year, not a few months ago, when I first had my first conflict with someone in the community. So I thought, now I'm home, man. Like it was one of those conflicts that kind of gets under your skin and you just go, and I kind of went, it's good. I mean, because now I'm really fucking here.
yeah. You're in your
Yeah,
family now.
yeah, now I'm family. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They see me as someone who's not a guest no more. They can fucking ruffle me up a little bit, which is good. But
Yeah.
anyways, I want to know what's next for you there in the territory. What are you doing next?
Well, the traveling art school.
I love
So
that idea, which I think
yeah,
is going to happen.
I'm really excited about it. And then when I talk to people about it, they're very excited about it. And it's, I have an organization called Inspiring Communities. They help me write the grants. And I have two organizations partnered. Both of the organizers of those organizations, they're both originally from my community. So Maui Dam, which is an organization for people with disabilities, it's a home for people with disabilities. And they've been doing a lot of community outreach and stuff like that. And she really liked the fact that I was making the art accessible. So she goes, Michelle, whatever you need. And she's the one who told me, she's my cousin. And she goes, Michelle, she told me back in 2017 or 18, she goes, Michelle, you should start an art school. I wasn't ready then. So I said, oh, I don't know if I could do that. And, and then after, several years with an institution that I thought, wow, I don't belong here. They're not ready for us. So I thought, I belong out there in the trenches and sharing the language and the art with our artist community, bring the art to the community and whoever we inspire, we're going to plant those seeds. So that's a very exciting new adventure, at my age.
Yeah, no, it is. It's ambitious, but I can see you doing that because Michelle, looking back to the Vancouver time too, you were an educator for years in the public school systems. And so I think that my take on it is that, you were in those trenches to learn how to be an educator. And now you're bringing that to everything you do now. You're not working in a void. You work with the people and make sure that you're passing all of those skills and experiences onto them. And so that's really admirable. It's an admirable way to come home and be home,
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool. I mean, I'm gonna collaborate with art therapists and healers, and and because when you do art, things come up. So you don't want them to be vulnerable. You want them to have someone to walk you through what's about to happen. And I remember that happened to me when I was in my undergrad, and I had no one to walk me through that trauma. So I thought, okay, if we're going to bring art to the communities, we need someone to support that, the triggers, because it will happen.
Sure.
And so, so it's about healing, it's about creating, it's about sharing. It's this whole communal approach. No one's going to be left out in the cold, and that's something that was missing with this institution, because institutions, period, no matter where, you're in a silo, you're on your own. I didn't like the fact that I was on my own, and it was like, no, this is not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It didn't feel right, eh?
No, it didn't feel right on many levels. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited about this new life that
Mhm.
it's meant to be.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to thank you for making time for the Brickyard project, for
Yeah,
making, again, your beautiful, gorgeous video, which I hope lots of people are going to see, and for taking the time so we could chat and visit again. And
yeah.
yeah, I know we're kind of like in the same neighborhood a little bit now.
Well, I was thinking of taking a drive out your way because I need to
Heck,
get a
you should come in July. Come
Yeah.
over. Yes,
Okay.
come in
Yeah.
the summer. I'm around in the summertime.
Excellent. Sounds like a
Yeah.
plan.
Okay, good. Okay, and that's it. Thanks again. Yahweh. Yahweh Goa.
Yes. Ani wala, Jen.